Welcome to the 60 Plus Podcast.
I'm Janet.
I'm Joe.
How are you today, Joe?
I'm very well, thank you, Janet. Thanks for asking.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
This joke has run its course.
I know you said that last time. You
I
can't.
did.
That joke has run its
That
course.
joke
We
has run
still
its
have
course.
to say good morning to each other,
Good
whether
morning.
you
What-
say it first or I say it first, or
All
you
right.
say it properly in response and I say it improperly in response. It all just doesn't matter. We have to do it.
I had a cashier at the supermarket compliment me when she asked how I was, and I said I'm well, and she said she was like, I'm so glad you said that. Everyone says I'm good.
Do you think maybe she was a past school
Could
teacher,
have been,
like
or
an
she
English
could just be
school
someone
teacher?
that speaks English
Was
well.
she in like her 60 plus
I think she
job?
was. I
Yeah.
think she was.
Well,
Yes.
that's an interesting segue to our topic of the moment.
Isn't it funny the way we do that?
Yes, and it's not planned.
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't.
Yes.
So, what is the topic?
Well, we're doing a myth buster.
We
Now
love
say
saying
that with me.
Yeah.
Say it with me, Joe.
Mythbuster.
Myth buster. And it's about 60 plus people should be put out to pasture.
Well, no, they shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't. That's the whole reason why it's a myth.
Well, I don't know. Like some days a pasture sounds pretty good to me.
I was like,
Was that a sheep?
It could have been like a sheep. Maybe it could have been a horse. I'd like to think if I was being put out to pasture. I don't know. Would I rather be a sheep or a horse? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that before. What about you? Would you rather be a sheep or a horse? You're
Mm,
going to get sheared as a sheep, probably.
true.
Or end up in mutton stew. Sheep?
Have you ever had mutton?
No, I probably have
I
because
don't
of
think
all
I
my
have.
travels to England over the years. I
Mhm.
bet you I have had it and didn't realize it.
I don't think I've ever had mutton.
There's a lot of sheep over there, by the way.
You know where there's a lot of sheep?
Where?
Iceland.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It was like
I don't know. North of England
maybe.
might have it be. I don't know. And they all have colored butts. That's how they brand them or mark them.
Really?
Yeah.
They like
They're
spray paint them or something?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I know. Now you know something new.
When they're put out to pasture,
I don't know if they color their butts anymore. It's like, yeah, go ahead, get lost.
okay.
Maybe I don't want to be a sheep. I think I want to be a horse now.
Do we get a choice?
You never know.
I want to be a healthy 80-year-old.
Well, yes. See, that's the thing. A lot of this perspective about what should happen in your 60s is really tied to our health. I'm not just talking about physical health, but, mental and emotional health and all of that.
Mhm.
And I've been having these conversations lately with people who are sort of like facing into whether they should retire or not. And they feel like maybe they've lost their sense of purpose. And in kind of doing a little bit of research on this subject, what I've discovered is it may not necessarily be a sense of purpose per se, but that we're changing so much, we're losing some of our identity.
We've talked about this before when people retire and they don't have a plan as to what they're going to do.
Right.
I have a good friend who retired quite young. And he went back to work after a few years because he just didn't have enough to do.
Yeah, that
He
people get bored.
Yeah, he kind of got bored and
Right.
tired of hanging out with much older people.
Tired of being in the pasture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I've heard that many times too.
Mhm.
But this is what the great opportunity is here because there's so many examples of people who have completely done a 180 turn in terms of how they spend their time. And they're taking up these great innovative ideas that they've had to start businesses. They're taking on new jobs in a field that they've never been in. They're some going back to school.
Sure.
I work on a college campus where there's intergenerational learning and there's a retirement community, and those people have to have 250 hours of learning a year to live in that facility on campus.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So, and there's all this data that shows that,
How many classes is 250 hours?
well, you can achieve it. You have a plan, you have an educational plan.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have to be in the classroom for those hours. Sometimes these guys are teaching the classes too because they've come from industry, they've been experts in their field, and they pick up an online class that they teach, or sometimes they teach on campus. But you can also get it going out and about in the world and doing educational things out in the world. So yeah, it's
That's
an
very
interesting
interesting.
concept. But what's cool about it is if you look at the data, there's so many over 100-year-olds in that facility, significantly more than the average for the US. Now, whether or not that would be maybe similar to those blue zone
Hmm.
statistics, but this idea of lifelong learning, of having a sense of purpose, of having some, new identity gives us, longevity.
In researching for this episode, one of the things I came across was many older workers transition to what they call a bridge job.
Mhm.
So it might be less physically demanding than something that they did earlier, but it can be flexible and part time. It helps keep them active.
Mhm.
It was actually an article from the Pew Research Center.
Yeah, I love you.
These intergenerational
Mhm.
learners that are teaching classes, that could be one of those things.
Yeah, and that's also about sharing your knowledge. You have a life of wisdom, let's say, or expertise in a certain area. Isn't it a great idea to be able to share that and mentor younger people who are interested in that area? It's like a gift that you're sort of sharing it, your knowledge and perspective.
Well, there's an article I came across from MIT talking about the decades of experience and expertise that older workers have. They can share that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was, I mean, much younger than the 60 plus crowd, but the average age for new entrepreneurs is late 40s
Mm-hmm.
and even much, much later than that. And that comes from MIT, and they're more successful than younger founders.
Well, that's interesting. I'd like to see, the data on that because
It'll
it's
be in the show notes.
okay. I'll go back and look at our own research.
Their ability to focus and stay on task is better than younger people as well.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, well, I mean,
I'd
that's
like
what
to see the statistics on that.
that comes
No,
from.
I
That
I
comes from
can see that.
aginggreatly.com,
Mhm.
and older workers are more productive.
Well, okay. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know that
I don't
we
wanna
do that
dis
here.
right. I don't know if I wanna diss, like, demographics or whatever, like, talking in
Millennials, you don't
general.
like millennials, Janet.
No,
We
I
know
that's
that.
not true. Don't say that. Some of my favorite people in the whole wide world are
Well,
millennials.
your kids don't count.
Listen, I'm around a lot of young people, right? And I think generationally, there are some stereotypes around those different generations. And if you look at our generation, I mean, there's probably a very high sense of accountability and responsibility. And that doesn't go away once you have that value structure in your life. So, whether you're a young worker or an old worker, you're still going to be a highly productive worker because that's how you were born and raised.
According to the School of Public Health at Columbia, older workers tend to be more reliable with lower
Mm
absenteeism and greater
hmm. Mm hmm.
dedication. They retain critical institutional knowledge and establish professional networks. So
Mm hmm. Mm hmm.
that's not dissing younger
No,
people.
no,
They
not at
just haven't
all.
had that experience yet, that life experience. They haven't built that network
Right.
of contacts. They haven't had the experience to be able to do all that yet.
So there's a lot of reasons why, first of all, you don't want to necessarily put your older workers out to pasture, which again, I think is happening as well. There's this perception by employers that, oh, you're older, do we really want to hire you? We have a 40-year-old in front of us and a 60-year-old in front of us.
I've talked to many people, and I've experienced this myself. Ageism,
Mm-hmm.
where someone of a certain age, let's say, older adults, there are a few challenges that they face when trying to find a job, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they got laid off from a job. I know people, they get laid off because I've always said there's a fine art to keeping your head above water and keeping your head down
Mm-hmm.
because as you progress in your career, your salary goes up and
Sure.
up and up.
Right.
And
Right.
then when it comes time for cuts, well,
Yeah.
guess who's on the chopping block first?
Yeah. Or let's give you early retirement.
So
Yeah.
when they're out, they're not ready to retire, they want to do more. They're viewed as, how long are they going to be around? They're probably going to retire,
Right.
or they're too expensive,
Yeah.
or they're overqualified for what we're looking for.
Right.
And these are all
Or a
assumptions.
perception that they're not going to be productive and slow or, whatever those perceptions are around that. But yes, I think ageism is an ism that is alive and well.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it'll ever go away.
Well, I think part of the reason that it exists is based on kind of older stereotypes.
Hmm.
Stereotypes of a time when health declined more quickly and health improvements for people, in their 60s and 70s is much better now than it was. you know,
Yeah, I think we're staying more physically active. We're staying healthier in general
Yep.
for longer, younger for longer, if you will.
There's another aspect to this of older adults working later, and it's to provide multi-generational teams. So you talked about intergenerational learning.
Yes. Yeah.
Multi-generational teams where you mix older and younger workers
Hmm.
provide some stability and experience from the older workers, while younger workers contribute technological skills and fresh perspectives.
You've just nailed it in terms of the benefits of that intergenerational approach. So it would behoove employers, especially, or to have that mix on a team. I mean, we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That should span age as well.
It should. There may be some of it because, according to the Brookings Institution, workers age 75 and older are the only age group expected to increase their participation in the labor force over the next decade.
Now, some of that is because of practicality, like,
Demographics.
yeah, but also financial issues. They keep
Oh,
on
for
bumping
sure.
up the age of Social Security, as we know, because we just did an episode on that.
Hmm.
There's a whole theory whether Social Security is going to be around forever or not. It's like, so some of this is from a practical standpoint. I need an income, I need access to healthcare benefits, whatever that may be.
Hmm.
But, getting back to this myth, if we will, that we stated in the beginning, the idea here is that when I think about when we started this podcast, it was like, wait a minute, 60 plus is just the beginning of something new and exciting. And again, it's an opportunity to say, if I want to pivot to another aspect of my life, this is a good time to think about that. And it's funny because I've been talking to quite a few people who are like, yeah, I know I want to do something different, but I'm not sure what that looks like. And it gets back to this, like, taking the time to really do some visioning for yourself. Like, what do I want? If I feel like I don't have a sense of purpose, or I feel like I'm getting bored in my retirement, or I feel like there's something that I want to give back, well, maybe we can do the work to kind of figure out what that looks like and create a new path for ourselves rather than just say, well, I'm just going to hang out in this pasture.
The pasture's attractive sometimes.
Swatting flies
Well, that's
with
because
my
you're a horse.
tail.
That's because you're a horse.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other benefits.
I just
People
did
over
a horse.
60.
Did you hear it?
I did. I was going to ignore it.
I can do it again if you want.
Oh, hey, Wilbur. Boy, am I dating
A horse
myself
is a
there.
horse, of
Yeah,
course.
we're
Of course.
really dating ourselves now.
That's
It,
okay.
it is the 60 plus podcast. Other ways that people that are over 60 are more productive. Better time management. They might have honed their time management skills, allowing them to be more organized and effective in their tasks.
Hmm. I have
Would-
no comment there.
because you have no time management skills?
Well, it's interesting because, again, as I said, I'm around Gen Z a lot. And that is one of their biggest challenges.
Why do you think that is?
I think they have a lot more distractions than we did.
Yes.
Let's just take social media. We can all go down that rabbit hole. It's
Excuse me, I'm just going to check my phone right now.
yeah, yeah. We all know about that, Joe. I think that there is a lot going on around you, and it's the art of staying focused and being clear. And this is why anxiety is on the rise, and it's just too much information coming at us, and it's really hard to cut through that. Back to meditation, right? Like, that's one of the reasons why we do it, is to get away from all of that.
Sure.
It's like, instead of picking up your phone first thing in the morning, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to breathe and get grounded. That's like a different way of living. And one is going to lead to distraction and one's going to lead to clarity and focus.
Okay. You know what else people over 60 can do that younger people can't do as well?
Let me think about this. That's a really good question. We should have a podcast on that. Just
Okay.
that one question.
What can they do better?
Yeah.
Well, in this regard, they're better mentors.
Well,
They have a wealth of
okay.
experience.
That makes a lot of sense.
I've been in workplaces where I just assume the younger people have the same kind of knowledge that I have, and
Right.
and then I realized, wait a second, it took me a long time to learn
Yeah.
these soft skills. You can't go to a class and learn them.
Right. Yeah. You have to experience
You
them.
have
Yeah.
to experience them. Being able to mentor young people is a valuable skill that can be in the workplace.
And it's those young people who realize that value that benefit the most,
Hmm.
as opposed to being like, okay, boomer, like you're trying to like share your knowledge. And I haven't really experienced that much, honestly.
My hackles got up as soon as you
Uh,
said, "Okay, boomer."
yeah.
What do you think about that expression?
Well, it's just silly.
It's not silly. I
Well,
think it's disrespectful.
okay, but that's a whole nother subject. Respect.
Okay.
RESPECT. Find out what it means to
Okay.
me.
Okay, Retha.
RESPECT. Sorry, I'm done.
Do you know the next line?
No.
Take that TCB. Do you know what TCB means?
No.
Taking care of business.
Really?
That's what it
Oh
means.
my God. You know how long I've been faking that line? 'Cause I'm like famous for singing
Uh-huh.
the wrong words, which is so annoying, I'm sure. So it's what is the line?
Take
Take
that
that
TCB.
TCB. Take
Take.
that TCB.
Yep.
Suck it to
Okay.
me, suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me. Sorry.
It's been a long time since you sung
I
in an
know it
episode.
has.
Yeah.
That's a good sign, isn't it?
I guess. I guess.
The
So let's
drugs
see.
are working. No, I'm kidding. I'm
Better
just
living through chemistry.
kidding.
Better living through chemistry. So the myth is that at a certain age, people should be put out. I'm making air quotes. Put out to pasture.
Right.
As either okay, as either a horse or a sheep.
Bah.
There are lots of reasons why they shouldn't be. If you choose to retire and you have a plan and you know what you're going to be doing with your time,
Yeah.
great. And
Right.
and
And
you
it
can
doesn't
do it.
have to be going back to work. It could be
Nope.
productive traveling.
Sure.
I mean, we know people who are really good at
We
traveling.
do. We
Yes.
do. But like you said, some people need to continue to work.
Right.
Their retirement plan didn't work out,
Right.
or they didn't have one, or they just choose to continue to work. I know people who love to work.
Yeah.
The CEO of a company I used to work for, he was the first one in the office. I always thought it was, well, he was very ambitious, which he was, and he was driven, which he was, but he liked it. He
Yeah.
liked the day to day running the business
Right.
and working.
Yeah. I know a ton of people like that who like literally will say, I will never stop working. I will never stop.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, no, I totally respect that. I don't think that's me, but I don't think I'm also gonna be, you know, just swatting flies.
Hmm.
I think I have things that I want to still accomplish.
Okay. Like 100 episodes of the 60 Plus podcast?
That's it.
At least.
That's one of them.
At least. This is episode 60. So this is,
Wow.
yeah, we'll be 60 plus. The next episode will
Oh,
be
so
the
this is kind of a
60
special episode when you
plus of
think
the 60
about
plus
it.
episodes.
Yeah, if this is the 60th episode of the 60 Plus podcast,
Hmm.
and we're talking about not being put out to pasture at 60 plus. It's all come full circle, hasn't it?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. You know what else? Older adults today are healthier and better educated than previous generations. And that helps them to stay engaged and work for longer periods.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I buy into that.
Again, according to the Pew Research Center,
Mm-hmm.
which
Isn't it funny how you have all the data this time? Usually I'm spouting out stats. I like this. This is good.
do you?
Yeah. Means I don't have to do any work. Speaking of being put out to pasture.
Yeah, we're going to put Janet out to pasture. Do you think we've busted this myth?
I think that we had fun with it. No, I think we did. I mean, honestly, you've got a lot of stats there. You've got a lot of really credible sources
Hmm.
of data of people who have studied this issue. And, I guess from a practical standpoint, so how do you translate that into a conversation. If, say, you're trying to get a job and you want to put your best foot forward, you want to leverage some of these points that are being made here about what makes me different, what makes me better suited for this job.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And there is that ageism thing that we talked about, which the challenge there is to actually get to a point, I think, where you can have the conversation
Hmm.
with AI bots and
Right.
software that weeds
Well,
out.
I've heard to take you should take dates off your resume.
I do have a little experience with this.
Yeah.
Some systems require the dates. You
Yeah.
can't get past it without putting the dates in.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
I think you're better off leveraging that network that you've built over the years to find a job than you are trying to get it through electronic means, if you will,
Mhm.
because it's a screening out process, not
Yes,
a
it is.
screening in process.
That's true.
And you want to hand your resume or to have a conversation with somebody who's like, oh, so what are you looking for? Basically, they're like, well, you know what? I know somebody who's blah, 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 blah. That's, I think, more how you're going to get a job in our age group.
I think that's always been the case, even before the AI bots that were screening out people,
Yeah.
where even if you mailed in a resume,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember mailing resumes to people. I remember in college, you went and you had your resume typeset. Talk about old school.
Yeah.
Now, every
We would
resume.
answer ads in newspapers. I think that's how I got my first 2 jobs, actually.
Really,
Yeah.
one of my first jobs I got by putting an ad in an industry paper saying I was looking for a job and this is what I wanted to do. And I got 2 responses.
Huh.
And I got a job offer from both places.
Huh.
Not responding to an ad, but putting in, and they thought the prospective employers thought it was very creative. I think we busted the myth. There are lots of reasons why people that are 60 plus should not be put out to pasture.
Correct.
If you want to be put out to pasture, if you want to be a
That's
horse,
okay.
that's
There's no
okay.
judgment.
No
Pastures are
judgment at all.
nice.
No, as a matter of fact, I think a lot of people that aren't out to pasture would like to be,
Right.
but for whatever reason, they need to work.
Everything's a balance. You're working, that's great. You're going to give yourself some time to pasture out. But do you want to do that 24/7? I don't know. I don't
No,
know.
not 24/7.
Yeah.
No.
And if you come to a moment when you want to reconsider that pasture life, how do you get started? Like, how do you start thinking about, well, what is it that I will bring me value or give me an identity that I want going forward in the next part of my life? I think that's a critical question to ask.
Until next week, this has been the six. Oh, you know what?
What?
We keep forgetting to tell people, share, share, subscribe. Tell people about the 60 Plus podcast. If you like it, tell a friend or two,
Or 3.
or a dozen. All right, that's it for this week. I'm Joe.
I'm Janet. Bye.